Genghis Khan. How a nomad built an empire bigger than Rome. Alright, folks, gather around because today, we're talking about the most unexpected underdog turned world conqueror in history. You've heard of Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, and Napoleon, right? Yeah, they were great and all, but let me introduce you to the man who said, "Hold my horse," and built an empire bigger than all of them combined. That's right, we're talking about Genghis Khan, the Mongol warlord who went from being an abandoned child to ruling over an empire so massive it covered 11 million square miles. That's a fifth of the Earth's landmass. People, imagine owning a fifth of the planet. Meanwhile, I can't even find enough space in my fridge for leftovers. But how did a guy with no army, no resources, and no political connections rise from the literal bottom to control the largest contiguous empire in history? Grab your saddles, because this is one wild ride. Childhood. When life said nitrogen monoxide. First things first, Genghis Khan wasn't even born Genghis Khan. His real name was Temujin, and from the moment he entered the world in 1162, life did not go easy on him. His father, a Mongol chieftain who got poisoned by enemies when Temujin was just a kid. His tribe immediately abandoned his family because, apparently, loyalty wasn't a thing in 12th century Mongolia. His mother, left alone to raise Temujin and his siblings in the harsh Mongolian steppe, where winter could turn you into an ice sculpture real quick. Survival. Oh, it was brutal. Temujin had to hunt for food, steal when necessary, and even kill his own half-brother to secure power in his family. Yeah, he wasn't playing games, and if that wasn't bad enough, at 16, he was kidnapped and enslaved by a rival tribe. Pause. Can you imagine? You're already struggling, and then boom. Kidnapped and turned into a slave. If this were any other story, this would be the end of our hero. But this isn't any other story. This is Genghis Khan's story. Temujin didn't just sit there and accept his fate. Nope, he escaped, ran back to his people, and started plotting. Because if life wasn't going to give him a seat at the table, he was going to burn the whole table down. The rise. I'm coming for everything. Now, Temujin had one goal: unite the Mongol tribes and create something bigger than just survival. The problem, the Mongols were chaotic. Everyone was fighting everyone. Alliances lasted about as long as a Snapchat streak. But Temujin, he had a different way of doing things. Meritocracy over nepotism. Unlike other Mongol leaders, who just handed out power to their relatives, Temujin promoted people based on skill. If you were good, you got rewarded regardless of your background. This meant his army was full of competent warriors instead of a bunch of spoiled chieftains' sons. Loyalty over blood. He didn't care what tribe you were from. If you were loyal to him, you were family. This made his army unbreakable. Military genius. The man turned the Mongol cavalry into the Formula One of ancient warfare. His soldiers could ride for days, attack from nowhere, and retreat like ghosts. They were basically the Navy SEALs of the 12th century. And just like that, Temujin went from a struggling nomad to the undisputed ruler of all Mongols. By 1206, he had crushed every rival and was officially named Genghis Khan, which means universal ruler. Yeah, not king, not chief, universal ruler. And now, it was time to expand. The conquests. When Genghis said, "Why stop at Mongolia?" Now that Genghis Khan had a united Mongol force, he looked at the entire world and thought, you know what? I think I'll take it. First stop, China. China at the time was divided into different kingdoms, and they all underestimated Genghis Khan. Big mistake, because in just a few years, he absolutely wrecked northern China. The Mongols didn't just defeat armies, they erased cities. His siege tactics were next level. If a city resisted, he'd say, "All right, let's negotiate." If they refused, he burned the whole place down and made sure no one dared resist Mongol rule again. Next, he turned west and took on the Khwarezmian Empire, modern-day Iran and Central Asia. Now, this empire made the biggest mistake ever. Genghis Khan sent a trade caravan to their lands, like, "Hey, let's be business partners." And what did the Khwarezmian leader do? He killed Genghis's men. Oh no. Because if there's one person you don't betray, it's a man who built his career on revenge. What followed was absolute destruction. The Mongols wiped the Khwarezmian Empire off the map. The capital, gone. The people, gone. The leader, running for his life until he died alone on an island. At this point, everyone in Eurasia realized something. Mess with Genghis Khan, and you don't just lose the battle, you cease to exist. The secret behind his success. So, how did he build the biggest empire in history? Adaptability. If the Mongols lost a battle, they learned from it and came back stronger. If they saw a new weapon, they copied it and made it better. They were the ultimate strategists. Psychological warfare. He wanted people to fear him. Cities would surrender before he even arrived just to avoid being annihilated. That's how powerful his reputation was. Religious tolerance. Unlike most conquerors, Genghis didn't force people to convert. As long as you paid your taxes and followed his laws, he didn't care what god you prayed to. This made ruling diverse cultures way easier. The final days. By the 1220s, Genghis Khan had built an empire stretching from China to the Middle East, but in 1227, at the height of his power, he died under mysterious circumstances. Some say he fell off his horse, others say he was wounded in battle. Either way, he was gone, but his empire, it kept growing. His descendants expanded even further, conquering Russia, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. At its peak, the Mongol Empire was the largest in history, controlling more land than the Romans ever dreamed of. The legacy. Today, over 16 million men share Genghis Khan's DNA. That means if you're watching this, there's a chance you might be related to him. His empire reshaped history, trade, warfare, and culture were never the same. And yet, most people barely know his story. Moral of the story. Life can throw everything at you, but if you refuse to give up, you can build something unstoppable. If someone betrays you, take the Genghis Khan approach. Maybe not total destruction, but at least let them regret it. And finally, if your enemies fear you before you even arrive, you're doing something right. So, was Genghis Khan a hero, a villain, or just the greatest conqueror in history? Let me know in the comments.